All right, welcome back. And we want to cross over and have our conversation this morning on Daybreak as we focus on the education sector. And already in studio this particular morning on my far right, we have with us Boaz Waruku. Boaz is a policy and strategy advisor at Elimu Bora. Asante for creating time. We also have Karibu sana. Daktari Vincent Gaido. Dr. Vincent Gaido is the chairman of Mount Kenya University Council. Asante for creating time this morning. We are also expecting Mheshimiwa Wilson Sosion and Yusuf Chanzu, former MP Vihiga, to be joining us for this conversation. But we want to start, first of all, by looking at the situation on the ground. As at yesterday, senior schools under the Cluster 4 category, formerly known as sub-county schools, are staring now at a bleak future due to the low turnout of learners. Almost a week since grade 10 learners began reporting, only a handful reported to C4 schools, with some receiving no learner at all. This is happening as thousands of grade 10 learners remain stuck at home, despite the government issuing a directive for a mop-up exercise aimed at ensuring that no learner is locked out of this transition to senior school. At Kokwe Island, Lake Baringo, we find Zephania Lekai securing his catch of fish. The 2025 KJSEA top performer has now turned into a full-time fisherman to save enough funds to enable him join Keep Your Seat High School in Bomet County.
Hakuna pesa za kutosha ya kuenda za mashule. Sasa mwana msaisi anaweza fanya hapa juu chini anapata pesa ambazo hazitoshi.
The island has a population of about 3,000 people, majority of them settled here after fleeing from banditry-prone areas of Rugus, Kiserian and Nosukuro. Many families were left with no source of income, hence their children cannot go to school. In Ekiendeke village, Suneka, Kisii County, Dotvik Omweri Ogega has been forced to shelve his dream of joining Maseno Boys High School, which is a national school, to join an alternative village school, shrinking his opportunities to pursue his dream career.
Kulingana na hali ya familia, haiwezi kabisa kunichukua hiyo shule kwa sababu inagharimu pesa mingi.
Nilienda shule kuomba lisensi ya mtoto, nimpeleke mahali naweza kulipa kidogo kidogo nchi shule za hizi za loko. Walimu wakasema mtoto hawezi kuangusha. Hawatawaangusha juu mtoto amejaribu sana. Wacha watafute jinsi wanaweza saidia huyu mtoto aende shule.
A similar fate befalls Elias Mwangi from Lake Slums in Nanyuki.
Nilipata 66 points kwa KJSEA, nikaweza kuitwa Mangu, but nikachange juu ya financial instability, nikachange to Nanyuki High. Mbele naona kukio poa juu nikizapata sponsor anaweza jikakamua.
Thousands of grade 10 learners remain stuck at home despite the government issuing a directive for a mop-up exercise aimed at ensuring a 100% transition. The low enrollment is threatening the future of Cluster 4 category senior schools. At Senior Chief Risa Secondary School in Kajiado Central, only 6 learners reported.
We were not expecting that. Bearing in mind that the grade 10, we are expecting 100% transition to senior secondary schools.
A similar situation is experienced at Saina Day Mixed Secondary School in Kajiado Town.
We are not even sure how many will come in STEM and how many will be admitted for social sciences. So we are worried that we may not get an adequate number.
In Bomet County, Kapchepkole Secondary School remains deserted, except for Form 3 and Form 4 students. The school expected 45 grade 10 students, but none has reported.
We have not been so lucky in this school. So far, we have put across one request for admission. It was approved, but the learner has not reported.
A few kilometers from Kapchepkole, Kenyagoro Secondary School is facing a similar challenge. Only 4 learners have reported to grade 10.
On the admission, we had 45 learners, but we realized some of them are from faraway counties like Coast, Narok, Western, and therefore they will not be able to make it.
The school heads have challenged the government to change strategy and secure the future of C4 schools. Safin Acheng Oma, Citizen TV. Of course, that story there, paves way for our conversation this morning. Already with me on the panel to discuss this very important matter. I'll just run you through who I'm having again. From my far right, we have Boaz Waruku. Boaz is a policy and strategy advisor, Elimu Bora. And we also have with us Mheshimiwa Wilson Sosion, former nominated member of parliament. Also with us this morning is Dr. Vincent Gaido. He's the chairman, Mount Kenya University Council. Asante Daktari for creating time. We begin from that particular story. Let me begin with you, Boaz. The uniqueness of the schools that were categorized under the C4 category. There's been a bit of fear that the future looks dark for these schools, considering the reports that we have received with regards to the turnout of learners in these schools. There are schools that were expecting hundreds of, there was a principal who was saying he was expecting 135. Someone was saying he had a capacity of 76, yet no learner has reported. Others are saying they've received only less than 10 learners. What seems to be the issue here? What seems to be the challenge with this particular category?
Thank you, Safin, and thanks to our audience and my colleagues here. One, I think we should start also on a very positive note. I get worried when I get to learn that there are children who are out of school as we speak. So the first vibe that we must send is for all the students, wherever they are, if they can present themselves to the nearest schools available, because time does not wait for anyone. If they can do so, because I know that now back to the question you're asking, the reason why many of them have not reported, it's because of basically preparation was not done as should have been done. And the government should have been taking lead in helping them prepare, starting with releasing information early so that then we get to understand what are the requirements for transitioning to those levels. And two, this continuation with the categorization of schools. I thought it ended with Professor Munavu, because Professor Munavu's report did recommend that we should look at a way of how the schools themselves would become standard schools in whichever part of this country. And that is part of what I'm saying. The government should have been planning and looking at what is missing in those schools. Because the schools are not just to be named grade 10 or senior schools by name. They should be having certain basics which qualify them to be grade 10 or to admit grade 10 students, for instance. Do they have the requisite infrastructure necessary? CBE, as this is the system that is ongoing and it is having lots of challenges, requires lots of investment in such infrastructure. And if we do not have the classrooms to the standard, we do not have the workshops to the standard, we do not have the laboratories to the standard, the sports equipment and even playgrounds and such, which would make them be confident that when they get to those schools, then they'll be okay. I think then that planning should have been done. We should have been now looking at how do we improve on those. And you know that even as we speak now, there are some students who chose not to select some of the schools. You put them C4. We had more than 3,000 schools which were not selected during the pre-selection. And that should have been a pointer to the government through the Ministry of Education and right to the desk of the president that something is not right here. Why did they not choose this? So that you address those. But I think by waiting until the last minute, when now they are reporting, and then you realize these people meant what they say. They didn't choose this because they've been passing nearby, and they see this as a place where nobody can learn media technology. Nobody can learn aviation. Nobody can learn this.
They feel like you can't learn aviation in your
These are learning areas which they are wondering, probably others are thinking maybe apprenticeship somewhere near if they wanted to do things mechanical. Right. So these are the things that should have been used in helping, including the teachers themselves, because you know, these are some of the schools which, if you look at even their level of preparedness with the teachers, we've had 844 teachers. The delivery of subjects, or the subjects they've been delivering, are then the normal physics, maths, biology when you come to the sciences, right, and then social sciences. So when these teachers then are also being exposed now, you are looking at them, maybe a teacher of physics would not really find it strange to handle electricity. But who would be able to handle marine science, you know, those kind of learning areas in this?
Which makes CBE attractive.
Those are some of the queries, and let me put it this way.
No, I'll come back to you, Aruku, because I also want the other panelists to give us their opening remarks. Okay. Let me begin with you, Dr. Gaitho. You know, having seen what has happened from the first day when the grade 10 learners were reporting to date, you've seen reports about even the delays. Some are still stuck at home, and concerns about whether learning has kicked off in some of these schools. What are your quick thoughts about our level of preparedness and planning for this transition to senior school?
Thank you very much for having me. And I think the year is still young. I can say Happy New Year to the viewers. And
Happy New Year.
He is still young. I thank you very much. Listening to him and looking at even what is on the papers at the Nation I've seen on page 3, it scares me of what will happen in 2029 when we'll be expecting the first cohort of these kids entering the university. I'm wondering whether we'll have students coming to the university with this trend. However, having said that, I think the issue here is preparedness. CBE was not an accident. It started from the lowest grade, and it has come progressively. Then we went to the junior school. Now we go to senior school. The preparedness lacked. And this is especially to the government and all stakeholders. And since the government is the driver, is the driver of education, we have a whole ministry, we have the teachers, we have TSC. We should have been better prepared. Otherwise, what you're seeing is like people are throwing towel into education. They're like giving up. There are many reports of inadequacy in terms of resources. You know, Kenya is now 63 years old since independence. And it is ridiculous that we are still struggling to get our kids to school. Yet, we know education is a panacea if we need to talk about development. I've even seen what was running a little while ago on schools in Isiolo. I've seen, you've been showing that.
Yeah. The Isiolo, CBC, the Isiolo way.
It is tragic that we expect these kids to be equipped with skills to help this country grow. We must invest. We must be prepared. And we must face this problem head on.
All right. I'll come to you, Mheshimiwa Sosion. He's worried that come 2029, there may not be students who will be transitioning to university. There's been concerns about whether we could be losing a generation with the hiccups that we have seen since the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. We have so much knee-jerk actions as we learn on the go. Do you think we are getting
I think the problem did not start today, if we look at the challenges. And this is where, as Kenyans, we fail. We deal with a challenge that emerges today, and we talk very extensively about it. We don't trace back to look at where problems began. The problems began way back around 2016 when a lot of reforms, unstructured reforms, were introduced, like abrupt change of curriculum, which did not follow a professional process, and many things happened. You remember universities collapsed. We were here discussing about our alma maters, how they collapsed. And this accumulated so massively. In fact, it could have been worse off at the moment. And the government of the day has a responsibility to make things work. And for the government of President William Ruto, these things were projected, and we did an analysis in 2022, looked at the extent of the rot in the universities, how universities were collapsing, looked at the extent of the rot in the basic education, how the basic education was collapsing through unstructured reforms, a curriculum that was not well prepared, teachers who were disorganized. And I can say massively, the government has taken deliberate intention to recalibrate the education sector. The teacher management aspect, which had been neglected, that has been worked on very largely through additional recruitment and through refining of policies at the Teacher Service Commission, and of course, looking at the curriculum. Number two, extensive review of the curriculum. Remember, the JS was supposed to take 14 subjects. Mm-hmm. Without teachers. Teachers were not prepared for this curriculum. But the government accepted that the curriculum be subjected to continuous review, and which was reviewed in terms of reducing the learning areas that were not necessary, and of course reviewing the content, those which were not inconveniencing and irrelevant. And so by and large, from my expert opinion and my practitioner's experience within the sector, I think a lot was done to rationalize the curriculum. The other major, yes, it's important we talk about what has been done, so that we look at the challenges which has not been done. The placement of grade 7, 8, and 9, the current primary schools, and renaming them as comprehensive schools, actually removed. We could have had a lot of catastrophes. Can you imagine if the senior schools now were hosting grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, the congestion and unpreparedness? It could have been more chaotic. That has been done. But now let us come to the transition to the senior secondary. The problem that we're having in this month of January is reporting. It is reporting and management of reporting. And I think by and large, the ministry has done fairly well. But what we needed...
By reporting, you mean learners going to school?
Yes, reporting to grade 10.
To grade 10.
And the challenges in reporting to grade 10 is that parents are too selective. They're choosing, they want to change schools. And now you can see what we would call, quote unquote, the premium schools are receiving a lot of pressure. Those are schools.
Is that really the problem, Weshima?
Yes, it is. It is a problem. It is a problem.
Haven't you seen reports of learners who want to go even to the day school next to their home, but they don't have the money? They were called to these prestigious...
Now, let me come to that. We have dealt with it. Yeah. Even if today you decide here to call parents who have challenges with school fees, this place will be filled, because that pressure for bursaries, for what comes in January, and we see these sort of stories. What needs to be done is to ensure that all children must report to the schools that have been selected.
All right, so I'll come back to you.
By whatever circumstances. In fact, Kenya no longer presents cost of education as a barrier to attendance of schools. And that is why there is need, and the ministry has taken that action, that we must mop up and have students report to schools. There is no reason, and we need to deal with the reporting systems after selection. We need to have more work done into it, because this is the only challenge that we have now. And let us not discuss about the preparation, how schools are prepared. That is a different component altogether.
I'll come back to you. Let me also bring in Mheshimiwa Chanzu. Yusuf Chanzu has joined us, former Member of Parliament of Vihiga. Thank you for creating time this morning. We are discussing the issues that have been raised with the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. Some of them have become quite loud now that grade 10 learners are transitioning to senior school. I want to hear your thoughts on the number 700,000 who allegedly are still out, have not reported to school yet. Mheshimiwa Sosion says the problem is reporting, and clearly you can see from that figure, it's not a very good number. Some are still sending pleas for support. Some are still complaining about being placed to schools far away from their homes. Talk to me about what this tells you with regards to whether we seem to be taking our learners in the right direction when it comes to education.
Number one, thank you very much for inviting me to this. I would call it a wonderful program.
The CBE?
Yeah, this program which we are having, the TV program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the Royal Media Services making it possible.
Okay.
For us to come and talk about this. I'm happy. Thank you to my colleagues here. Now, you see, Mheshimiwa said something that if you told those people to come here, you will see so many of them. But you know, the only problem we have in this country, if you look at where we came from, leave alone this thing of 2016 or what, before, even we got independence. And if you look at what is happening in other countries, which we are supposed to be competing with, I find it a disgrace. Because the institutions which are charged with the responsibility of doing this thing, they are not working. Mm-hmm. You know, when a president comes up and sets up, say, a commission to write a report on something, they are not the ones who implement it. It goes to Parliament. You need to have people who can have, and this is the reason why we have got MCAs starting from the ground. We have got MPs. Now we came up with the issue of governance. This problem, you see, now we end up leaving this problem to somebody like the president. Why should the president every time be talking about how many teachers he has employed? And we have got Teacher Service Commission, we have got Treasury, we have got budgeting mechanisms. Even if all of us where we come from, in the morning from about 4 o'clock, children have been going to school in the morning. In all these villages, the people who make these children go to school, they are old mamas and young ones who don't even have watches or mobile phone. But the children are able to go to school in the morning. If you go to villages like where I come from about 2 or 3 o'clock, unakuta mama amekaa, anajaribu kutengeneza mboga for, they don't have anybody telling them, but the family is running. So this, when I was here last time, I praised this station, and I'm also praising it again today. When we were in school, before things changed to what they are now, we were told about the role of the media to inform, educate, and disseminate information. And this is exactly what should be happening, because, you know, if, I don't know, you know, if we were to discuss these things seriously, it is so pathetic, eh? Number one, we are talking about those 700. Then now we are talking about the children who are not in school. When we passed the CDF law, which I think, luckily enough, you know, when he was in the politics of education, I was in the education committee of Parliament. I'm not an education, but I've had so much interest in education. If you go to Vihiga constituency, the schools you find, there were about 15 schools when I was secondary schools when I became MP. Today there are over, I don't know, about 30 something. Primary schools were about, primary were about 50 something. Now they're over 70. But you see, when this report came up, when President Uhuru was president, then they came up with this thing of CBC. I was expecting that when this new government took over, the people who would be appointed would go and advise the president this way. But apparently they did not do that. Now, when you look at what I just wanted to talk about when I was talking about my brother here, you know the reason why we came up with CDF, and I don't think this point should be missed out. The idea was that somebody sitting in Treasury cannot be able to know what's happening in the schools all over the country. So we said that a minimum of 2.5% should be allocated towards education that time. We said that if they were to go to the wards are too many in terms of management. The regions, that is the provinces would be too far. Like a place like Nakuru, and somebody is down in up north or south. So the medium was the constituencies. But the biggest problem, which I can tell you, this thing has now been used as a campaign tool. You see, all of us here, you've seen what has happened here. Immediately when I came here, there's a cup of tea for me here, or a coffee. There is, those girls, I don't think they are level for education. But the moment you come there, they're asking you whether you can have a cup of tea. They're not looking at me, whether I'm short or tall or something. You see, that. This is how the way life is supposed to be.
Equality.
But you can imagine, you know, it is so painful that somebody like Madam, renovating a classroom like this one, which is supposed to cost about 500,000, I make an arrangement with you, with Sosioni here, that it be 2.5. Then I pay him the 2.5, he takes his 5 and then returns to me as the MP. The institutions are not working. We are good institutions, we should be working. These commissions must work. But I think they can only work if Parliament can work. You know, Parliament...
So systems have failed.
Yeah, because you see, Parliament, you know, when I see, I don't know how you feel yourself, because we were to talk something sometime, I didn't find you. Because, you know, it is very, you know...
But I'm available. I'm in Kenya.
You know, there's something... Now, let me tell you, madam, you see, and I don't know whether you don't see it. You know, you come from somewhere. When I'm seeing on TV, and a TV like this one station takes a lot of minutes for a young child to come and say that I've finished this class, what? I cannot be able to go on with education. You know, it's so painful. Like, if you take, for example, where I come from, Nimiga County. Hamisi County, I mean, constituent gets now about 180. When I went to Parliament, there was no CDF. I was able to do all those things with Harambe. I thank President Moi, because, you know, he used to give us a lot of support, those who would go and approach him. Now, another thing I think which the educationists will help us on, you know, we've been talking about President Moi, President Kibaki, Uhuru, and now Ruto. But I still, you know, the universities we have in this country.
As we're about to go on break, so I want us to shift this conversation a little bit when we come back.
So what I'm saying, in short, what you asked me, our institutions are not working. People are not electing the right people.
All right.
It's a matter of legislating and coming up. You know, like here now, the four of us can decide on a motion here. If we were to come back here, we can decide on a motion and we vote on it here. But we have to be logical in our thinking. So I also blame the electorate. They kind of put the vote because of corruption. You know, isn't it? What you choose is what you get, isn't it?
Sure.
What did the computer, they said in technology, they took garbage in, garbage out. But I want you guys to do more of this. Get as many experts as possible to discuss these things, because we can't just leave it to the president alone.
Mheshimiwa, you've been in politics, and you know there is a lot of dynamics that come into play when before that vote is casted. And that's a conversation we can have on another day. But I want us to take a break. We will be back shortly just to pick this conversation proper, going into the dynamics in the education sector and the challenges, and also what we have done right, because it is a journey that we began several years ago. There must have been progress that we have made. We'll trace that in just a bit. But for now, we take a break. Do engage us on social media at Safin_Aching at Citizen TV Kenya. But stay with us for this and much more.